This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
You know, I don't mean to abuse the video thing here today, but I'm just getting worked up from seeing all this Celtics love. And, you know, when you look at the matchups between the two teams, like, you know, you could say, oh, maybe they have us in Kyrie versus Bledsoe, but I think it's closer than most people would assume, you know. Maybe Jason Tatum and Chris Middleton, but I'd take Chris Middleton over him too. You know, Al Horford and Brook Lopez. I think
Al Horford and Brook Lopez is awesome.
Things kind of equaled out, okay? But we have Giannis.
Great song.
You know, you look at the series matchup between the two
Oh,
teams,
Bucks Twitter, feed me.
in field goal percentage, and we dominated them in points in the paint.
It's a dominant.
It's like I can't even say anything.
They don't have an answer for Giannis, and we have Giannis. You know, so like we have Giannis.
So Milwaukee, so Wisconsin.
It's like that. People wonder why they can't tell the difference between Wisconsin and Minnesota because they sound exactly the same.
I'm sorry, Detroit. That was for me. I needed that. This man, and I'll drop his @ for his own sake. Sith Lord AR. What an @
Tough one.
Yeah, not a great look.
He gets a lot of girls with that handle.
Not a great look if you're that guy. He made a video explaining all the reasons why the Bucks were going to win this in like 5 games.
It didn't age well.
No. Kyrie Irving and Eric Bledsoe being the same. Brook Lopez and Al Horford. Giannis Stopper Horford being the same.
I would say Giannis Stoppers, for one game for sure. We'll see how it plays out, but definitely for one game.
All right, let's save it for our NBA talk because before we get into that, we have to localize things. I don't want to go all the way into Boston right to start this thing off. In fact, they're last on the list of things we'll get to, so if people want to just stop listening at that point, go for it. But the Lions drafted in the NFL draft. They certainly took part. They were participants.
I think so.
They took T.J. Hawkinson, tight end out of Iowa, at number 8.
When he got drafted, I know like he wasn't a relatively like unknown guy, like people knew about him, but still when he got drafted, I was like, who? Like just because I wasn't expecting it right away.
He does have that name, but to be honest, it's kind of a strong name. That's a name I could see in the Hall of Fame. It's also a name I could see being a definite bust.
Yeah.
Like I could see that going either, but it's not like there's names where they like P.J. Johnson, the D end out of Arizona in the 7th round. It's a decent name. He could be a very good 7th round pick.
Are you telling me somebody named Greedy Williams is not about to house at least 4 kicks a year?
I'm telling you, Greedy Williams can be a great player. Everybody that passed on him, but I'm telling you right now,
Williams, he's got the makings of a punt returner.
There are guys that you just know when they get drafted, you aren't gonna be shit. Like you just you can just hear their name. Daniel Jones, not going to be. Speaking of which, before we, and I don't know that we're going to trash the Lions because there's really nothing to trash them for. It's just like they drafted.
You can't grade a draft 2 days later. You got to wait a couple years or whatever.
You can grade the Giants draft.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine.
That one's very gradable.
Grade that one 2 seconds later.
Boy, they took the worst graded quarterback in the draft right off jump.
I was standing in my kitchen. I could only hear the television in the other room. I couldn't see it. So the second I heard with the 6th overall pick, the New York Giants select Daniel Jones, I let out a very audible, no fucking way.
I laughed. So I was hosting trivia at Norm's Field of Dreams. I can shout him out because I host there.
Norm.
And I'm hosting trivia, and I have the draft on a TV so that I can kind of keep track of what's going on. And I see number 6 comes up, and I'm like, they got to take Haskins. Like, it's the only thing reasonable for them to do.
Or you just wait till 17 to take a quarterback.
Yes. Like, if you're going to take Daniel Jones, take Ed Oliver, who was on the board.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, take Josh Allen, take Ed Oliver, and then take Daniel Jones at 17, because he would also be available whenever your pick is in the second round.
He wasn't going to be there at 17.
He was 100%
There's no way he wasn't going to be there.
100% he was there. And for whatever fucking reason, they took Daniel Jones at 6.
It's like, it's a reach to take him at 17.
I laughed into my microphone hosting trivia, and people thought I was nuts because it was mute. People weren't really paying attention. The Lions weren't on the board yet, and I just audibly laughed into the microphone. People thought I was crazy, and then I pointed at the TV, and multiple people in the audience joined me in laughing quite strongly.
I mean, he's milquetoast Eli Manning. That's what he is.
if I have ever needed evidence that an organization is being shadow run, this was it.
Yeah, I know they just joke about it on PMT about Archie Manning running things, but like, there's not a whole lot of other explanations.
No, like that's the thing. It's such a good joke. Archie Manning has his hand in the cookie jar. He's running the organization in secret. No, he literally is running the organization.
There's no way a sane person drafts him at 6th overall. Like, Gettleman in his Brooklyn accent coming out, I saw a quarterback. Shut up. No, you didn't.
Like, how do you have the statement, I sat down at the Senior Bowl, I saw 3 series, and I thought, this is a professional quarterback? As an NFL GM, how do you have that statement come out of your mouth?
And to sit there, like, arms folded back in the chair, saying it like you've got an air of cockiness about you, like you didn't just trade a superstar for Jabril Peppers. Like, what? Why? That if he took him at 17, I'd probably be like, it's a reach, but if they feel like that's their guy, that's their guy. You take him at 6, I just think you're insane.
I think that they have very quickly fallen. Like, I keep bringing up the comp. Outside of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who actually are doing fairly well on the rebuild front.
The Kevin Love contract's not pretty.
No, it's not. But like, you might have the number 1 pick. Like, you might fall into Zion.
Washington doesn't have it.
Probably
Oklahoma City doesn't have it, and they got bad contracts too.
Probably getting LeBron in 2022, if we're being really honest.
I don't like. We keep like the odds of Bronny being drafted by the Cavaliers and going to Cleveland. Like, we have no idea. He could go play in Memphis. Who knows?
The odds of getting 3 out of 4 firsts and getting LeBron back were pretty wild too.
When we're saying Bronny's going to be the number 1 pick, like, we don't know who Bronny could be, like a 13th pick.
That's
and end
true.
Up in Orlando.
That's true. But like, either way, look at the odds that Cleveland maybe gets LeBron back. They get Bronny. They have Zion. They have all of this maybe coming together.
I don't want him to go back to Cleveland.
No, I don't either. But what I'm saying is there's a future for Cleveland, and that's where I look at teams in sports, and I'm like, what team has won a championship this decade and had a worse post-championship run than the New York Giants?
This decade,
they have fallen from championship to potentially one of the 5 worst organizations in American sports.
I mean, the Wings miss it by a year. Like, if we're talking this decade. But other than that, I can't think of anything worse than the Giants. No.
Like this, there's nothing.
The San Francisco Giants are pretty bad.
But they won 3 titles.
I don't know enough about baseball to know if they're even bad this year.
I don't know. Their rebuild could be going well for all I know. But
Cardinals,
it's
like, I don't know. Baseball is weird like that.
The Giants being literally one of the 5 worst organizations in American sports right now.
Yeah.
Having won a championship this decade in the last 8 years.
People could I feel like there's a bunch of hockey teams, but I feel like that shouldn't count either because you can get so bad and so good in hockey so quick.
Right.
And such a roller coaster.
It was like the Kings as an 8 won the title.
Twice, didn't they? They've won 2, and now they're terrible. And the Hawks won 3, and they're no good.
But it's also like they don't have that level of ineptitude, which part of it is like the exposure of hockey and maybe
no one really cares. You're
right.
LA
like it's not football. It's also not like
behind the Angels in LA.
But like, if you want to be one of the worst organizations in sports, you're chasing the Detroit Lions, the Cleveland Browns, the New York Knicks.
Don't put the Browns in there anymore.
Right, they're doing very well. But you get what I'm saying. Like, you have the New York Knicks, the Detroit Lions. Who else? Now I'm blanking. I'm really bad. The Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. The Minnesota Timberwolves are not so great.
I wouldn't put them in some. I don't know if I'd put them in the 5 worst, but I think
I'd 5 worst owners.
Are the New York Giants?
No, because like the Mars are good owners. They're championship owners.
But are
they just hired a moron to run their franchise?
But I think they did it on purpose. Like, I think John Mara was just like, look, I'm hiring you because I'm in love with Eli Manning, and his dad has my balls in his purse. And
how could he? Mara's a billionaire. Isn't he like one of the, like, they always talk about like the big 3s, like the Rooneys, the Maras, and Kraft, and I don't know, maybe there's somebody else too. I feel like there's somebody else I'm forgetting. But like, those are like the big power guys. Jerry Jones, obviously. Those are like the big power guys in the NFL, and Kroenke, the guys who have the real money.
And yet, Mara has this organization in the worst place it's probably ever been in its history.
They do have Saquon Barkley.
But they took him number 2 overall.
Right, but
they overvalued his position.
They do have Saquon Barkley, though.
They have Saquon Barkley. They traded Odell for fucking nothing. They traded...
The Odell trade is... Like, the Odell trade coupled with Jones at 6 is... And the Golden Tate contract is like... Huh? What? Wait, are you rebuilding or are you signing vets? Wait, why would you trade your best wide receiver if you're going to bring in a rookie quarterback at 6?
Well, and then make it even worse because they traded Snacks Harrison just to draft Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea. Like, that's one thing I'll say for the Lions. Look, you drafted T.J. Hawkinson. You drafted a guy who gets Gronk comparisons.
He better be Gronk. Take him
Right.
at 8,
If you take a tight end
he
at
better
8.
at least be Jimmy Graham.
Right, at the worst.
Yeah,
but like, you take a tight end at 8, you need to be Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, Rob Gronkowski.
Those are the 3 best tight ends of all
You
time.
need to be. You need. But that's what you need to be.
Minimum Jimmy Graham. You need to be a Pro Bowler for a few years, and you need to have a run where it's like, okay, that guy might be the best tight end.
It's really that's what
you don't have to be Antonio Gates. Like I would love
if you're
it
a
if you
tight end
are,
in the
but,
top 10, you almost do.
Yeah, but that's like the highest touchdown total of any tight end ever. Like I'm not expecting him to break the tight end touchdown record.
That's fair, but like he gets the Gronk comparisons. I don't. The thing about it is, if you want to be unhappy with the pick, be unhappy with the pick, but don't be unhappy with the pick because you've drafted tight ends in the past and it hasn't worked.
I don't like to get unhappy with picks before the guys ever play a game. Like I'll
That's
give him
my
a
other
chance.
thing. I think like
the kid from Hawaii, I'm going to be watching like a hawk. Though he better make a lot of tackles.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
That kid. When you draft somebody who ESPN has to go, we'll get back to the Lions pick in a minute. And then they never go back to the Lions pick.
No.
Because they have no tape. They've never heard of the kid.
Nothing.
They had everything, all his graphics were saved for day 3. They were in the day 3 file.
Yeah, we didn't in the 3rd round. I don't even know who we took, but we didn't take Justin Lane.
Will Harris.
Took a smaller
safety
corner or smaller DB, whatever it is, instead of Justin Lane. I feel like Pittsburgh had a really good defensive draft full of guys the Lions could have taken.
Yep.
Like
that's kind of like
I
Devin
really
Bush.
wish we had Pittsburgh's draft.
That's the other thing. Like if you I'm not upset that they took a tight end because he's a tight end, and I'm not really even upset with the pick. If he ends up being Gronk, we're great. Like that's
right.
Perfect. It's highly unlikely that he ends up being Gronk.
Can't imagine.
And also, it's like you had Ed Oliver available. Like you could have taken Ed Oliver at 8,
Devin Bush,
Devin Bush. Greedy Williams. You can take Greedy Williams in the second round.
That was I always pick like one guy who has the best name in the draft, and I'm like, yep, we should draft that guy. No matter where he is, get that guy. Greedy Williams was my guy.
The other thing with Greedy Williams is they were all like, whoa, he doesn't like to tackle. I'm like, he's a fucking corner.
I don't care if he likes to tackle. I want him to house 4 punts a year. Like that's all I care about.
What do you need him to tackle for?
We got Darius Slay. It's not like he has to guard the best receiver. Or cover, whatever they say in football.
The other story from the draft, and basically, like I could go through the draft and give you a grade on what I think of each player and give you a grade on what I think of each pick. I'll do the bullshit where I give a grade for the whole draft. I think the Lions had a B draft.
Sure.
But again, like
I don't know.
You're gonna say a bunch of shit. The Lions drafted really well. The Lions drafted really poorly. Nobody fucking knows until these guys get on the field and play.
They haven't had mini camp yet. How do I know?
T.J.
I've never
Hawkinson,
seen the kid from Hawaii play before.
Nobody has.
Yeah.
ESPN still has.
I don't know if he's gonna be any good.
They're still digging for his tape.
Rainbow Warriors, let's go.
Jelani Tavai, like people thought they didn't even have a football program anymore, and here we
still
go.
Got the tracker on the field.
I probably some field. But again, like T.J. Hawkinson can be Gronk just as easily as he can be Eric Ebron. I'm not going to put all that judgment on him.
Just not with the Lions.
I'm not going to put all the judgment on him just as quickly as he can be Brandon Pettigrew.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
But I'm not going to.
Not a Pro Bowler.
I'm not going to do that on April 29th and be like, yeah, T.J. Hawkinson, this is a horrible pick and it's a bust. And like he hasn't played yet. He hasn't played it down.
I don't know. He's the 8th pick. He's probably
had a
pretty
good college career. I'm fine with it.
Like people on the desk, people around like that were covering the draft did not seem to lose their shit over the fact that he was the 8th pick. They thought it was a little bit of a reach, but everybody seemed to think he's going to be a pretty good player. So we'll see.
The story of the draft is the one that somehow absolutely no one has talked about. And it's that Tyreek Hill audio came out from what he said in the locker room, and somehow like ESPN had no interest in it.
It was in the locker room?
The tape was from the locker room.
Him and his girlfriend?
Yeah, the tape was from
an airport. I was like,
it was from somewhere.
From a locker room?
But it was somewhere where we know what he said. He basically told his fiance she needs to be terrified of him too, dumb bitch. Like that was the audio. And I came out and I go, this should hijack the draft. Like this should.
Yeah, the draft's just so big. No, right.
I
mean, they also tried to like deflect from it at every single turn.
Which
they didn't want to cover it.
Which, to me, is not great.
No, but he's already under investigation. Like, everybody knows the facts of what's going on. Like, I understand not wanting to cover it because you have the draft once a year and you don't want this to overshadow it. But at the same time, like, the NFL is infamous for pushing those things to the side.
Especially lately.
Yeah, and you kind of maybe want to just, like, put a little bit of light on it and say we're handling it, or at least, like, release a statement saying we're aware of it and we're gathering more information and facts, and not have Goodell look at Sam Ponder and say, we want to wait. We want to wait for everything to come out. Like, you could just say, like, he's suspended indefinitely right now and we'll figure it out later. Not, let's wait to suspend him. Like, just suspend him indefinitely, and if you lift the suspension, you lift the suspension. I don't think he ever will lift the suspension, but just do it. Like, that's the thing I'll always give Adam Silver credit for. Donald Sterling happened a day later. He was banned for life. They did not wait. They did not see what the context of the tape was. They didn't care that it was recorded without his knowledge. The next day, Donald Sterling was banned for life, and he's never been back in an NBA game.
I'm glad you brought that up, because what I wanted to do with this was, like, my whole greater issue with the NFL as a whole, and why I'm falling out of love with it is, like, what they did to Colin Kaepernick for kneeling, and what they did to Eric Reed for kneeling, and then what they have with, like, Kareem Hunt gets a job again. And
the Kareem Hunt thing is, I don't even know how to react to the Kareem Hunt thing. He's suspended for how many games?
7 or 8.
I feel like he should miss a whole year, but he did miss a playoff run, so I don't know.
Like, he got kicked off the team, and then he's been re-signed, and he has.
I'm okay with
7 or 8
Kareem Hunt
suspension.
getting a second chance, and I don't think that makes me a bad person.
Right, and that's kind of where I'm like, you can say what you want about Kareem Hunt, and he's also handled the aftermath of this better, and he doesn't have a pattern of this behavior.
He did not appeal the suspension.
Tyreek Hill never really should have been on an NFL team.
Never.
He punched his pregnant
before
girlfriend
he got drafted
and choked her up against a wall and pled guilty to it in court.
Sat on her head and repeatedly punched her in the stomach while she was pregnant with his child, who he now punches.
And he pled guilty in court, and the Chiefs were like, have you seen this motherfucker return a kick?
Real talk, the dude's fucking easily the best receiver in the NFL. Like, we talk about Odell and AB. Nobody can hang with Tyreek Hill. That dude's fucking unbelievable on a football field, but he's a scumbag.
He did all of this to his girlfriend, who was pregnant at the time, and the Chiefs just looked at him and said,
Dude,
this
you
motherfucker,
run like a 4-2-1.
This guy can run back some kicks, though.
We got a quarterback who can throw it over them mountains, and we got a guy who can run right through them.
So then you get this thing comes out where he's been beating his kid, and he breaks his kid's arm, and then he goes to court. And the judge goes, well, we don't have evidence to prove that this is what happened, and so I can't press charges. And they don't press charges against Tyreek Hill. And I go on Twitter and I say, okay, so the third time this guy beats the shit out of his family, he's finally going to get appropriately charged. And then, thank God, this whistleblower of a woman comes out and is like, I got this tape. Wait till you hear this.
Yeah. It was the fiance's friend.
Yeah.
And they called it, I forget what they call it, like
an insurance policy.
Insurance policy, that was it, yes.
Because
it's a hell of an insurance policy.
Yeah, it was like he went up to his kid and he's like, open your arms, and then punched him repeatedly in the chest. And then she was like, you think it's respect, but he's terrified of you. And he said, you need to be terrified of me too, bitch.
Yikes.
And that guy just now has been suspended indefinitely from the NFL.
Yeah.
From the Chiefs. The NFL hasn't suspended him yet.
No.
Also important
to
know.
The Chiefs have just told him not to come to team activities.
The Chiefs have banned him.
I don't even know if he's technically suspended.
The Chiefs have banned him from the facility. Yeah. Well, not even banned, barred. He's been barred from the facility. He's been told not to come to team activities. The NFL hasn't suspended him. The Chiefs haven't officially suspended him.
They did release a statement saying they were deeply disturbed by the audio they heard.
Oh, yeah. It should be deeply disturbed enough to just cut him from your team.
What a branch you're out on there.
It's like a greater issue for me with the NFL as a whole. And honestly, I'm at a point where if Tyreek Hill plays another down, I may not watch the NFL. Like, I might just take
definitely wouldn't watch him.
I might just take the Michelle Beadle approach to it and be like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Like,
it's a really tough look to have him still be playing. Like, you don't really have an excuse, because it's not like anybody's gonna stick up or be like, oh, that's parenting. No, Like, that's not parenting. And also, it's like, how many times can he do stuff like this?
Well, now it's not even, it's beyond that. It's like, how many times do we have to go through Ray Lewis killing a person in Atlanta?
But I mean, even with Tyreek Hill, like, we've been for years, and people, anytime anybody like brings up Tyreek Hill, and I think they might not know about him, I've gone out of my way to tell them about Tyreek Hill. Be like, maybe don't go pumping this guy up. Definitely don't buy a Tyreek Hill jersey.
Social media, when Patriots played the Chiefs back week 5, and everybody was exploding about Patriots fans throwing beer on this guy, and I'm like, look, I'm not endorsing fans throwing anything at players. I think that's a horrible thing to do.
Yeah.
But I have a really hard time feeling bad for Tyreek Hill.
That's the guy.
Yeah, if you're going to pick somebody to throw beer at.
Don't throw beer at anybody, but if you have to throw beer at one guy, do it to that guy.
Please.
Like, yeah.
Like, do it
Him
again.
and John Rocker.
Do it again.
You can throw beer at those guys.
Ray Rice. You can hit Ray Rice with a beer. Ray Lewis, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
He killed someone. I think he deserves to be hit with a beer.
Even those guys, though, like, at least they've come back. Well, not Ray Lewis. He just said God has a plan. But, like,
that's not
Ray
great.
Rice has been very sympathetic. He's still with that woman. There's obviously been no evidence of it before that night and no evidence of it after.
That's the other thing. If anybody that comes to the defense of Tyreek Hill and going like, well, they were still together, weren't they? No, dude, she was trapped.
Yeah, she was
what
screwed.
that was.
Like, the Ray Rice thing, like, it was a really, really bad moment and a really, really shitty thing to do, a terrible thing to do. But it wasn't a serial problem. Tyreek Hill is a repeat offender.
It's a pattern of behavior. Yeah. But it's just, I'm at a point where I need the NFL to do it right. And they didn't do it right with Ray Rice until the video came out.
Right.
They didn't do it right. They still haven't done it right with Tyreek Hill because I don't see any reason why he should be eligible to play.
I'm still waiting for the Dez Bryant video. He's got a torn Achilles. He'll never play again. But, like, Schefter's been leaking. When's the Dez Bryant video coming out?
No, and I think, like, it's just it's a bother to me with how the NFL handles these things. And I'm glad that you brought up Adam Silver and all of that because the NBA just does it right. Like, if you fuck up, you're gone.
It right so many times, like, repeatedly and right away. They don't wait. They just act. Like, okay, this is bad. We're done. We're not going to have, like, Charlotte passes the law that the thing's bad. Okay, well, you don't get the All-Star game.
Yep.
And then they get rid of the law. Okay, you can have the All-Star game back.
It was literally, you want to be racist? Sell the team.
Yeah. Like,
that was
immediately. Like, immediately.
Guess what? Sell the team.
Yeah.
So that's just where the NBA gets it better. All right, before we get into Thrones recap, for guys who don't watch Thrones, specifically Kevin, I got tickets. I'm really excited about it. To Sox Yankees in Fenway on a Sunday night in Boston. I think it's a bucket list sporting event. And so I wanted to talk best live sporting event that you've been to. And best live sport. What live sporting event would you really love to go to outside of a Super Bowl?
Well, immediately the Lions in the Super Bowl would be I would die. You don't understand because you've had, 8 of them, in your life?
I didn't go.
But you've seen it. I haven't seen the Lions play a home playoff game.
Right, that's...
I would die to see the Lions in the Super Bowl. Absolutely, it's nothing would ever even remotely come close. I've always wanted to go to Augusta. I feel like I missed, this was the one to go to. I feel like I probably,
this might have been the best one ever.
Can't imagine, seeing that would have been the best one. I've been to a cup final where the Wings have won. I've been to a cup final where the Wings have lost.
Were you at a clincher?
Yeah, both. I went when they beat Washington and when they lost to Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I was very young when they beat Washington, but when they lost to Pittsburgh, I got to sit in a suite, and Muhammad Ali was in the suite next to us. It was pretty fucking cool.
That's sweet.
It was awesome. They lost. It was shitty, but the other parts were cool.
See, I have no clincher. That's the one thing that killed. I've been to a World Series game. Tigers played the Giants. We know how that one ended because they didn't win a game the whole series.
I've seen 2 teams win championships that weren't Detroit teams. I've seen the Giants and the Penguins win a championship in Detroit.
That's brutal. That's not great. No, the only clincher I went to was the American League Division Series in 2006 when the Tigers knocked out the Yankees.
Oh god, I thought that the Oakland the Maglio home run, but that was a CS.
Yeah, that was the championship series, but it was the divisional series division series, whatever they call it, when they knocked out the Yankees, and I remember being very excited. I was in 7th grade or something, and everybody was chanting goodbye at the end of the game. I can't remember who started for the Tigers. It was
Verlander or Kenny Rogers.
No, it was the other one. What was his name?
Bonderman?
Yes, Jeremy Bonderman started the game.
Bondo.
Yeah. Todd Jones came in and shut it down.
Todd Jones.
Huge lead. It was 8-3.
Yeah. I was at the Pine Tar game for game 2.
Oh, very nice.
Cold as hell. They ran out of hot chocolate in the 5th inning. Literally, the whole stadium ran out of hot chocolate. Couldn't believe it.
Not great. Not a great look for an October baseball
without
game.
a doubt.
Yeah, I remember like wearing wool socks. It was cold as shit.
You want to know like the worst thing I've probably ever done as a sports fan? In '04, I gave up a ticket to the finals to keep playing in a baseball game in my backyard against the Lakers. I was like, we were playing a baseball game in the backyard. My dad was like, all right, we're leaving for the game. And I told my cousin she could go.
Because you wanted to play baseball in the backyard? I was
still playing baseball. But that's the shitty part of having courtside season tickets when you're a kid is just like you think the Pistons will be in the finals every year. Like they're just really good. They go to the conference finals. I grew up with that. Like I went to finals games with Robert Horry in Game 5, hit that shot. I sat courtside in my baseball uniform, my best friend next to me. We came straight from a baseball game, went to Game 5, sat there in bright orange baseball uniforms while Robert Horry hit that shot.
How did you have this upbringing? This is incredible.
My dad's company had tickets to all these different things. It was awesome.
You just sat courtside at all these big Pistons games.
My first inclination when you said biggest sporting event you've ever been to, it's not like it was a big game. It was Game 5 of an Eastern Conference Finals, but 07, May 31st, 2007.
I thought you'd bring it up, yeah.
Like, it was the night before my 15th birthday. I went with my friend. We had an AAU tournament the next day. With my dad, I watched LeBron just go nuts. And, like, that moment, I was like, that guy's going to be the best player ever. Like, that was the most insane thing I've ever watched.
I've seen LeBron play live one time. It was last year. Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And I was wearing my Scary Terry confetti shirt.
Nice.
And the Celtics got fucked up in that game. But it was cool because I got to see LeBron play live, and I hadn't ever seen that, and I wasn't sure I would ever see it at that point. So
I haven't seen him play live since 08. It was the last time I saw him play live.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I was glad that I saw him in the midst of probably his best playoff run. That was
spectacular. That game, the Toronto game, was it Game 1 or Game 2, where he was just out there trying different shots because he was bored.
What was it, Game 3 when he hit the bank, or was that Game 2?
No, because they were in Toronto, so it would have had to been Game 1 or 2. I know exactly what shot
at the buzzer.
Yeah, like all those where he was just in a row, just hitting crazy shots, just trying whatever he wanted.
I thought that was when he jumped up on the scorer's table. I thought that was in Cleveland when he hit the bank.
For the game winner.
Yeah, the game winner when he hit the bank shot and then he jumped up on the scorer's table.
I'm talking Game 2 in the second half. I can't remember if it was Game 1 or Game 2 in Toronto in the second half, where he was literally just out there trying. Like, I remember Zach Lowe tweeted it right then and there, like, he's just out there screwing around. Like, he's just beating them up. No one can stop them. He's doing ridiculous fadeaways.
Tough look for Toronto.
Yeah,
LeBron was just playing with his food.
He dominated them.
I remember seeing he had more points than Lowry and DeRozan combined in that series.
Speaking of DeRozan, that was a rough end of Game 7.
Listen, I think Denver's just going to get shit on by Portland in this series.
I think it'll be competitive. I think Portland's going to win, but I think it's 6 or 7.
I'm hoping, but I do think Portland in like 5 or 6 probably.
I mean, Denver's tough to beat at home. Like they're really
That's
tough
the
to beat
thing,
at home.
and they have home court.
Yeah.
But I think like if Portland steals one of the first 2, I don't think it goes further than 6.
I mean, they're on 1 day's rest tomorrow.
And if the way Dame's playing right now,
if I were Portland, I would have gone to Denver early, and just even if San Antonio won, then fly to San Antonio. Just get used to the altitude as much as you can. Though Denver's probably a decent amount above sea level. They got mountains in Denver, right?
It's pretty high.
It's hilly.
Yeah.
They probably don't have mountains in Denver. Maybe they do.
It's the Mile High City. Because it's a mile high.
No, Denver. I meant Portland, not Denver. Jesus. Obviously, they have mountains in Denver.
I was like, wait a minute. We know that Denver's
obviously
quite large.
they have mountains in Denver.
Yeah, Portland. I think there are some, but it's pretty. I don't know that it's very high above sea level. I think it might like be pretty much sea level.
I just remember the
I'd have to look it up.
Going like down a mountain and going into Evan Turner's pool because they couldn't go down the mountain road.
Yeah, it's a good story. Portland is 50 feet above sea level.
Okay, not quite a mile.
Oh, wait.
5,230 short.
Portland, Oregon, 50 feet above sea level.
Shout out to Remember the Titans for being the reason that I know how many feet are in a mile.
There we go. I was like, I don't know that there's very many places in Oregon that are that high above sea level.
Okay, geography's off.
All right, before we get into the generic NBA playoff discussion and some of these series, I got to say I'm a little disappointed. But before we get into it, I want to do Thrones recap for guys who don't watch Thrones.
I'm very curious because you let a little bit slip when I first got here, but I'm excited.
So they teased this episode as like this, you better prepare yourself, the Battle of Winterfell.
Yeah, I kept seeing battle all over Twitter. I was like, oh, we're going to get a lot of blood, and I'm going to get a really good recap.
No, and I thought like a bunch of people would die, and it turns out not that many people died.
Yeah, that's a tough look.
Like, in fact, the only person that died was the one guy that everybody assumed would win. It was the Night King died. Right. The Night King's dead. Spoiler alert.
I came down here, the first question question I asked was, did someone die? Thinking it would be like Peter Dinklage or one of the Starks.
And there was a scene where they should have died. And like Peter Dinklage, okay, so Tyrion and Sansa are sitting next to each other in the crypts where they put everybody to be safe, which is the dumbest fucking thing ever because everyone in the crypts is dead. So guess what happens when they reanimate the dead? Yeah. Everybody in the crypts comes back to life too.
Usually.
They're slaughtering everyone in the crypts. Fortunately, all the important characters got to hide. And there was a scene where Sansa and Tyrion look right at each other, and he kisses her hand, and then they start sprinting, like, trying to find their way out, and they both fucking lived.
Tyrion's Peter Dinklage, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And both of them lived. And I was like, why are they had Sam, the fat guy, get saved, like, 4 or 5 times.
He's like the simpleton, right?
Yeah. They had, everybody just kept getting saved. Daenerys, her dragon gets overrun by the dead. Dragon lives. She falls off the dragon into a circle of the dead. She lives, but the guy who comes and saves her from dying dies.
Who's
but
that
only Jorah, her guy who's been helping her for like 8 seasons.
Okay.
And now he's dead, but only because he helped her fight off the dead. Just way too many.
So,
dead.
but the Night King is actually dead. Like, there's no chance he's coming back again.
Gone, big gone.
Like,
Arya Stark killed him.
But like, he can't come back. Like, he's already dead.
Nope, he's gone. He's destroyed.
There's got to be a way.
He was sitting in front of Bran. He had won. It was all over. Jon was fucking cornered by the Night Dragon. Jon was about to get fucking burned alive.
But I thought the Night Dragon shot ice.
It's not really ice. It's like blue fire.
Okay, I'm very confused.
Yeah, and so he's like ready to get fucking burned. He's ready to die. He's facing this thing on. He's like, this is my last moment. Bran is sitting in his fucking wheelchair, and the Night King's the Night King's standing right next to him with his hand up. He's ready to go. Arya comes out of nowhere. She's jumping. Fucking Damian Lillard from 37 feet. The Night King turns around, grabs her by the throat, and you're like, oh no, fucking Arya's dead. Which it doesn't really matter, because if the Night King kills Bran, you're like, everybody's fucking dead.
Right.
So he's choking her out, and we're like, oh shit, the Night King's gonna win. And then she does this fucking swift-ass move. She's got the dagger up here in this hand. She drops it, catches it with this hand, and stabs him in the fucking chest. And he just explodes.
That's wild. That's a lot to take in.
It was one of the most electric hour and a halves of television that I've ever seen.
Was it just full battle?
Yeah, but I also think I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be like, that was really fucking unsatisfactory. But like I told you, because my whole thing is I've wanted the Night King to die in this episode the entire lead up to this episode. If he lived longer than this, I would have been really upset because I wanted them to focus on the battles and like the wars waged between the people because they're always more interesting. Like, the Night King has no dialogue. He has this weird motive that doesn't make any fucking sense.
I never knew what the motive was. He just wanted everybody to be dead, right?
Yeah, the motive was he wanted just
winter.
An endless winter and an endless night. So he wanted to kill Bran because Bran holds all the memories of the world, and if he killed Bran, there'd be no more memory. There'd be no history. It would just be an endless dark night where nobody
everybody
knows
wants
anything.
Bran dead. Like, nobody wants Bran around, right?
No, they do. Because he has all the memory. But it's also just like, why does that matter so much? Like, you have books. Like, the history still exists. Like, you still, like, Bran fills in some plot holes, but other than that, the mystery still...
Bran doesn't sit right with me.
The whole thing...
weird Bran thing.
No, my whole thing with the way Game of Thrones is boiled down, and I've come to a point where I realized now I was never going to be satisfied. Because it is boiled down to, like, these things are the way they are because writing. Because...
Right. That's fair.
Because story. This thing
like
is...
These people didn't die because they have contracts that pays them per episode. So,
right.
like,
And
they're not going to be done until the last one.
It's like Bran can see everything that ever happened because we need him to be able to tell Jon that he's actually a Targaryen.
Right.
It's the only reason that we need Bran to know that, really, if we're being honest. And then the Night King wants to kill Bran because Bran knows everything, and the Night King doesn't want anyone to know anything. But also, like, there are books that have the histories of the world. So Bran knows little plot holes, but everything else you can still recover from reading a book. So why is it so important that Bran dies? Why is it so important that he's left alive? Why is it so... Like, the whole thing is just, I don't understand what the motive is. I don't understand the deal.
You're preaching to the choir
but
here.
Now,
I definitely don't understand.
Now the Night King's dead, and I'm like, well, at least we can get back to the things that are actually really interesting and entertaining, where the people are playing these chess matches and battling each other in epic ways that...
See, but now this is the part that I definitely know. Like, I got it when it was like everybody against the Night King.
Because it was good versus evil.
Now,
but this is
like, now I definitely don't understand what's going on.
This is what made Game of Thrones so great
who.
all the time. It wasn't good versus evil. It was like moral ambiguity and who do you want to root for? And there were very clearly like bad people, but there were also very clearly gray people.
Right now,
like,
but now I don't know who any of the people. I just knew the dead people were bad and these other people were good. Now it's all like I don't know who's gonna fight who. I don't even know what sides they're on.
Cersei's the queen that was getting fucked by her brother.
Right. No, I know. Like I know who
she's
the
still
people
alive.
are. But like, is she against the Targaryens?
Yeah, she's the queen right now.
Okay, because she wasn't like before, right?
She's always been against him. She's sitting the throne. She's the queen. She wants to keep the fucking throne. She doesn't like Jon because he's king of the North. She really won't like Jon once she figures out that he's Aegon Targaryen and he has a claim to the throne.
Yeah, it's a tough look for her.
She doesn't like Daenerys because she doesn't like Targaryens and she wants to keep the throne. So basically, her mission at this point is let's fucking kill everyone. And I want to just be queen.
She got to be queen because her husband was Joffrey's dad. And then when Joffrey died...
Joffrey's illegitimate dad.
Right, but everybody thought it was Joffrey's dad.
And then so Joffrey took the throne, and then... But she was also Joffrey's real mom. So
right.
Joffrey dies, and then
she gets the
Joffrey's younger brother takes the throne, and then he dies.
Which one was he?
Tommen. He took the throne.
Yeah, no.
Then his sister got poisoned, and she died. And then he, at some point in the series, Cersei was like, all right, I'm done with all these motherfuckers that are trying to threaten my children. And so she lures everyone into this church, this cathedral,
this
basically.
Is the Red Wedding?
No. The Red Wedding was long ago, and it killed two of the most important Starks, but they deserved it. They were fucking idiots.
Yeah, sure.
But Cersei lures all these people into a fucking church, and it's like her Tommen's wife, so the queen at the time,
right.
And her family, and all the religious people, and she puts them all in this church, and then she blows the fucking church up with all of them in it. And they all die.
They had explosives in this time?
It's called wildfire. It's like a chemical, but it just sets off, and it's a fire you can't put out, and it blows the church up, and pretty much blows up half the city. And she's happy, but she also just killed her kid's bride. So joke's on her. He jumps out a window.
Ooh.
Now she's childless, but she's the queen.
There you go.
And now she has no kids, and so she's got nothing left to fight for, so all she has to fight for is the throne, and that makes her the best villain the show's ever had. So I'm really excited that they can focus on that. The payoff for the Night King was not great.
Yeah, I didn't expect the Night King to die. Like, not that I have like a whole lot of previous experience in how this whole thing goes. I guess everyone dies, but like
eventually,
I thought he was going to be like a dude at the end that was going to go toe to toe with somebody.
I was hoping a little bit, and then that's the other thing. He didn't really go toe to toe with anyone. He fucked everybody up, and then it was just Arya with the Damian Lillard prayer. And
one week she has a sex scene, the next week she kills a guy.
Yeah,
kills the Night King.
I'll tell you, in the scenes from next week, she was locking lips with somebody. So,
oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, it's gonna happen again. All right, playoff talk. So the Spurs lost to Denver in one of the uglier Game 7s I've seen.
It was just like gross. I fell asleep for half of the third quarter, and I was very happy that I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I was like, man, I wish I could go back to sleep. But then I got close, and I was like, damn it, I have to stay up. It was not worth staying up.
We advertised PMT, I think, too much on this podcast. But
probably.
One thing I definitely heard that I agreed with was when they were talking about how it was the best series because it was going to 7 games. And then Hank goes, I've watched every single one of these games, and I don't remember anything from any of them.
I can remember the shot making down the stretch in Game 1 by San Antonio.
Jamal Murray going nuclear.
Yep, I remember that one in Game 2.
Other than that...
Game
But it's
6,
like you and I are bigger NBA
decent.
fans than these guys. So it's
like, It was a very like mundane series for having gone 7 games.
This is where I'm disappointed with the playoffs so far, because Houston and Utah was interesting a little bit. Like Portland and OKC was only interesting because of the pettiness by Dame. The Warriors and the Clippers was probably the most interesting first round series, but only because the Clippers were so goddamn fun.
The Clippers were like I mean, even you heard, like, I don't know if you saw the clip from the press conference of Pat Bev and Lou Will just being like, yeah, like, what did you want us to do?
I love that team.
Like, they made it 6 games. That's amazing that team made it 6 games with them. And, like, in the end, that's exactly how they should respond to those questions. Like, yeah, what the hell were we supposed to do? He's Kevin Durant.
She was like, what would you do, Pat, if you could go back and slow down Kevin Durant? And he's like,
I tried.
Have you played basketball before?
Lou Williams literally goes, I promise we tried. Like, yeah, like you did. And you did, you know what? Kudos to you, because like you taking that team 6 games is the equivalent of Denver winning their first round series.
Them taking that team 6 games is
They would have
basically
beat Denver.
barring Toronto winning the finals. You just got Kawhi Leonard, basically. Like, that's how these guys are looking at it. We just took the Warriors 6.
I mean, maybe
we just got
if
Kawhi.
He does win the finals. Maybe just be like, all right, cool, I'll give you a championship later. Can you be mad in Toronto if you're at that point?
No, they would love him.
Yeah.
He could go there for 1 year, win a title, dip, and they'd be like, we love you,
Appreciate
Kawhi.
you.
He'd get a
Like,
tribute video.
He'd get a statue. Like, yeah, I mean, no doubt. The first round in general for me, like,
It was not good. It was
like
not
yeah,
good.
like there were certain games that were good, but like as a whole, the series were just all lacking.
The Jared Dudley, Ben Simmons thing was interesting.
It was fun for a minute.
But it was like a minute. Literally
just
a minute. Not like
I mean, you can't keep Jared Dudley fun for that long. He's like the most boring guy in the NBA. He just kind of got fun for a couple of minutes.
That's how long the whole series was fun for, though.
Right.
A minute.
Yeah, like game 1.
And then it was over.
Game 1 ended, we're like, okay, we could have something. And then game 2, we're like, no, we don't have anything.
And then game 3, where the Nets should have had it and then didn't.
Jimmy Butler got thrown out, and Mike Scott hit a ridiculous 3 from the corner.
Was that game 3 or game 4? Where it was
That might
like,
have been game 4.
this is their opportunity. They can make it 2-2. They have this lead. Let's get it done.
Yeah, it was game 4.
And they fucking collapsed.
So that's how much I remember about those series, yeah.
Second round, not off to a great start.
No,
if we're being honest. Like, the Warriors-Rockets series looks like there is a lot of potential.
I don't know. Like, I really don't know. Steph played awful. If they don't call those fouls, James Harden is so much less effective. Like, I said it to you earlier, like, theoretically, if you look at his shots today, he was 13 for 14 from the free throw line and 4 of 16 from deep. He missed 12 threes. I don't think it's too far of a reach to say he probably got closed out and quote-unquote fouled the way he thinks he got fouled on 6 of those 12 missed threes.
Well, and you know it because his post game was just, let's have a fair shot, call the game the way it's supposed to be called.
So then, like, let's just for the sake of argument say that on 6 of those threes he got fouled. That's 18 more free throws. He would have shot 32 free throws in that game if they had called those fouls.
Yep.
Nobody wants to see that. No one.
Nope.
So don't be mad at the foul calls. And also, that game drastically changes if James Harden shoots 32 free throws. Like,
yeah, that's like a blowout win for the Rockets.
It's just ridiculous. So, like, I'm not mad at the foul calls at all. If they don't call those fouls and Golden State plays better than Steph having, 18 and really doing most of it in the fourth quarter, Klay not getting hot at all, Draymond having a near triple-double. He played great again. But, like, I love that they started the Hamptons 5. I think, like, put your best 5 out there against their best 5. That's great. Capella was a non-factor for most of this game. Like, he had 4 points. So that'll be interesting. I don't know how much of a series this can be unless Houston brings their A game every single night.
Which they definitely can. The other thing is, like, I saw an interesting question on Twitter, and it was, if you could give the Warriors the title right now and start free agency, would you? And somebody
Hell yeah.
But the answer I saw was...
Free agency's going to be hype.
Right. But the answer I saw was no, because it's the worst 7-game stretch in the Durant era to start a playoff series. Or to start the playoffs.
Yeah, but like not for Durant, it isn't.
No, not for Durant, but for the Warriors, it's the worst 7-game stretch to start the playoffs in the Durant era. They look kind of disinterested at times. Draymond had the best playoff game he's had in a long time.
Past 2. Like game 6
really good.
and this game have been outstanding. I mean, a triple-double in game 6. But
like Klay at times, like Klay today...
Clay's hobbled.
Klay today should have had like 8 or 9 fouls.
He's not right.
He didn't, but he should have.
He's not right. You can see it defensively for sure.
I don't know that Steph's hurt. Like
I think Klay's more hurt than Steph.
The thing with Steph is anytime he starts playing badly, people go, oh, he's hurt.
He did. I mean, he twisted the ankle in game 6, so it's the immediate cop-out to be like, oh, he's not himself. I don't, like, Steph hit a really big 3 to end that game and pounded his chest and ran away like everything was fine. Like,
Right.
I don't think Steph's that hobbled. I think Klay is legitimately hurt.
No, I agree. And that's where I think that they can make this. Houston can definitely still make this a series. Like, They played their game. They didn't get any of the fouls called. They still only lost by 4.
But man, they really needed a game out of Eric Gordon. Like, they needed Eric Gordon to stay in that.
But they
one.
can still get, like, if they take game 2, you're in the same situation.
I'm not trying to say the series is over by any means. Like, that game was hit or miss. A one shot goes a different way and Houston wins. Like, I'm just saying you got 4 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists combined out of your front court with Tucker and Capella. That has to get better. You can't rely on Eric Gordon getting 27 for you every night. He only hit 4 for 13 from deep.
Yeah.
Like, they got nothing off the bench. Their highest bench scorer had 8 points. It was Nene. Like,
you're not going to get that every night.
And like Chris Paul had 17 on 5 for 9. He played well when they needed to. But I mean, they were force feeding Harden. 28 shots, 16 free throws.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, they force fed him, and that's not going to beat Golden State. It's just not.
And again, this is where it's like, can D'Antoni basketball really win a championship? And my argument has always been no, because it's 2 shot selection
Old
dependent.
D'Antoni basketball, 7 seconds or less in Phoenix, that should have won a championship. In this era, that'd win a championship.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but it's like bleed the clock, play tough defense, but on offense, we're going to ISO.
I mean,
it's focus on shot selection, more 3s than 2s.
I mentioned PJ Tucker didn't score. He played a great game. Like, he was 0 for 4 from the floor. He had 0 points, but he played 40 minutes, and he played outstanding on the defensive end. Like, you need exactly what he gave you defensively, but you need more than 4 points out of him and Capella combined.
He was also a team high +9.
There you go.
And that's
like, that says a lot right there.
Like,
he led the team in minutes.
To have 0 points in 39 minutes and be a +9 is really hard.
That's out. I mean, he played really, really well on defense, and he always, like, I know he only had 3 rebounds, but the way he just forces guys out of their spots and opens up other places that they can get rebounds and do things on the glass, both offensively and defensively, PJ Tucker was huge for them.
That's the thing too that makes me feel like Houston really can win this series is Golden State was scoring like 130 points a game against the Clippers. They come out tonight and they struggled to get to 104. Yeah. And I know that like Steph was not good for the majority of the game, but like if you get 35 points out of Kevin Durant, you should have more than 104 points on the board at the end of the game.
Probably. Well, I mean, I don't know how many they score against the Clippers to end that, because Durant had a 50 piece. They scored 129. Yeah.
Right. But that's. And like you get 35 out of KD, you get 18 out of Steph, you get 14 out of Andre Iguodala, you get 14 out of Draymond. You should have more than 104 points.
You get 14 out of Draymond, you should have more than 104 points.
Like when you have a lineup that does that well, a starting lineup that does that well, you should have more than 104 points. And that's why I think Houston, defensively, that's going to keep them in this series. Because that's the one thing nobody wants to talk about with them. They were a really good defensive team.
They were a very good defense. If they weren't as good as they were defensively against Utah, that series is still going on because they were horrendous offensively.
They were really bad.
They were not good at all, and that's what I said to you. Like, you texted me the other day after the Golden State lost in Game 5. Like, Houston,
and I probably
overreacted.
6.
Well, yeah, but still, like, I didn't think you were 100% serious. But like at the same point, like, Houston really did not play well in that first round. Like, I know they blew them out in those first couple games, but those last 3 games against Utah were hotly contested. They lost one of them. And they really should not have won Game 5. They did not deserve to win that game. Utah could not make shots. They were trying to get Ricky Rubio to hit threes late. And Ricky Rubio had a chance to hit a 3 to put them up by 3, and it was a 6-point swing right away the other end. Gordon hit a 3.
My thing with the Warriors, too, is I think they definitely are more vulnerable than they have been at any point in the Durant era.
Sure.
They're playing rougher basketball than they have at any point in the Durant era.
They game plan to have Boogie, and they don't.
True. I don't know that Houston wins this series. I think Houston has a better shot to win this series than they had to win last year, even though they took them 7. Mm-hmm. Like, losing Chris Paul Game 5 hurts, and then not having him down the stretch.
Warriors lost Iguodala. People don't talk about that enough.
True. But it's still, they didn't need him nearly as much as the
but I mean,
Rockets
he's the guy
Chris
who guards
Paul.
Harden.
True.
Like,
yeah. No, and I get that, but it is like, now being fully healthy, the team that you have defensively, I think you have a better shot now than you did a year ago. Mostly what I'm getting with the Warriors being this vulnerable, I think the Eastern Conference has maybe, like, if you were to offer me the Warriors or the Eastern Conference, I think I would take the Eastern Conference.
I don't know. Like, no, I do know. I'm saying no. Like, I picked the Raptors to come out. I think the Raptors are really, really good.
Like, if you're giving me 3 teams in the East, and I say 3 because Philly is no fucking shot,
You want a hot take from me right now? If they play the Raptors, I'm not positive who has the best player. Like, that's where I'm at right now with Toronto. Like, Kevin Durant is amazing. Kawhi Leonard, like, Greg Anthony said it repeatedly, so I don't feel as outlandish saying it and hearing it come out of my mouth, but I could not see anything other than Jordan and Pippen when I watched Leonard and Siakam the other night.
Yeah.
Like, Pascal Siakam had
really
29
something.
on 12 for 15 or whatever the hell it was. Like, and he was the help. Like, Kawhi was just insane. And he's been insane. He was insane for the entire Orlando series. The dude is playing out of his mind.
I'll offer you this. I think if you give us Golden State and Toronto, I would be unsure who the best player is too.
Yeah,
because
like
I would think Kawhi and KD are that close right now.
Especially factor in defense.
The Warriors would know who the best player on the floor is, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Steph Curry will think he's the best player on the floor.
But I think if you give the Warriors the Celtics, the Warriors will be less sure who the best player on the floor is. Because they seem to have that level of esteem for Kyrie Irving.
I think they have that level of esteem for Kawhi. I think they have that same level.
Maybe they do. They just haven't said it publicly, and maybe it exists.
Yeah.
Maybe they are more scared of Kawhi. They just won't.
I don't know
say
if they're more scared of Kawhi, but I think the levels are very, very.
Everything they've said seems to just point they are the most afraid of Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I think when a guy hits that shot and when a guy beats you like that, it's always in the back of your head.
Yeah.
Like, that dude killed us. Like, he is the reason we lost. I mean, you think back to Game 2 of that series, like Game 3, the game at home. When Kyrie just took over.
And then Game 5 on the road when Kyrie scored 41.
Yeah, like, I mean, they were he killed them in that series repeatedly. And you think back to Game 1 in 2015.
Yep.
Before he got hurt, I mean, he was beating him up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Again, like I've long said, if Kyrie doesn't get hurt in that series, LeBron might be walking around with 4 rings.
Yeah, I mean, they can look at 2017 and say we handled them really well, and if we have Durant, then they can't touch us. But
it's the same thing when you look at Kawhi. They were getting clocked by the Spurs before Kawhi came out.
They got punched in the face in the first half, the first 3 quarters of that game.
They were getting murdered by Kawhi before he got hurt.
Zaza played a huge role in that championship. Well, they won a championship. Yeah, I was like, that was not.
If you just say the Warriors won a championship, you're pretty safe in saying that.
Well, it's the one year that I can't remember if it's 16, but no, they played the Thunder in 16. So yeah,
was that Durant era when Kawhi came out and was just fucking them up, or was that
2017?
Yeah, because the year before was OKC when they blew the 3-1. So this series, I do think the Rockets have a shot. Losing Game 1 is never ideal.
No,
but I do think they have a shot.
You didn't lose Game 1 at home.
Going to the team you think has the best chance to go to the finals out of the Eastern Conference. I don't want to talk too much about them to start things off because you're right. Like Kawhi and Spicy P, it looked like LeBron and Pippen, Jordan and Pippen.
That was a dominating performance. They held them to 14 points in the fourth quarter.
I want to look at it from the other perspective of, if you're Philly.
It's a tough look. It was a really tough look.
If you're Philly and you lose this series in 4 or 5 games, which after Game 1, they are really in danger of losing this thing in 4 or 5 games.
I mean, they're just like, you look at like the benches and who came off and like the matchups. The first guy off the bench for Philly, James Ennis, played okay. He's going up against Van Fleet. Then who's the second guy you bring off the bench? It's Jonah Bolden.
Yeah.
And you're trying to ask him to play the same minutes with Serge Ibaka, who's the 7th guy for Toronto. Like, that's not even close.
And you're asking 11 minutes out of Furkan Korkmaz. And it's like you've got Boban, who you really can't play that often.
Boban can't play in the series, period.
Really.
He can't play in the series.
He had 10 minutes and he was a minus 17.
He cannot play in the series.
It's hard to be a minus 17 in 10 minutes.
Boban, I love Boban like for what he is, but he cannot play in the series. The bigs for Toronto
there's no one he can
good.
Guard.
No, the bigs for Toronto are way too good.
And they're good defensively. Like, that's the thing against Brooklyn. For whatever reason, they had no problem leaving Boban wide open at the top of the key.
Yeah.
The bigs for Brooklyn didn't understand the situation. They didn't understand their defensive switches.
Jared
they
Allen's
weren't
20.
getting into their spots. They have a bright future, but they're too young for this.
Sure.
The Raptors might have the best defensive big pairing outside of Boston in the league.
They have the best defensive big pairing outside of Boston in the league. Like,
okay.
No doubt.
I thought you were going to say including Boston. I was going to be.
It's close. I mean, it's close. Like, Siakam,
it's definitely close.
Like I didn't put him on. I can't remember if you did, but Siakam could very well be second team all defense.
Sure, and that's one thing. I sent a text to you, and I was like, the way that Toronto has been able to just bottle up Philly down low. Like, Embiid got handled.
I mean,
16
Marc Gasol
points.
was outstanding in this game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I texted you. I said Embiid having 16 points on 5 of 18. I'm sure the injury weighs into it. The fact that Toronto got Marc Gasol is huge for this team.
I don't know how much the injury. Embiid went flying through the air to throw it on a dunk early in that game. Made it look like he was not hurt.
The knee pain thing might be a little
I
stretched.
don't know how much you can play that anymore. But, I mean, the key is, without a doubt, that Marc Gasol needs zero help on Joel Embiid. And when you don't have to double Joel Embiid, Philly's screwed.
Absolutely screwed.
They just don't know what to do in the half court if they don't get that double team.
The other issue, I think, for them is you're at a point now where your GM has doubled down on saying Ben Simmons is getting the rookie max.
Quadrupled down.
Like, that it's at a point where you have to do that. You don't necessarily have to do it this summer.
You absolutely don't.
And
absolutely
so
don't.
If I'm Philly, I'm firing Brett Brown. I'm getting a new coach. I'm making Ben Simmons develop at least an elbow jumper.
That pregame warm-up was just a tough.
It was First of all, he steps into these three-point shots very clearly
he didn't
traveling.
make a single one.
Very clearly traveling.
I can make one. Like, if you give me 6 straight shots like he had, I'll make one.
The funniest thing, too, was he was taking contested three-pointers in practice.
Not
and I'm like,
heavily contested.
right, but it was still more contested than he would ever be in an actual
trainer,
game.
like, kind of throwing a casual hand up.
Nobody would ever contest him that much in a game.
No.
And I'm like, dude, just take him wide open. That's what you're going to be getting. But, like, the fact that he doesn't have any jumper. Like, if I'm Philly, get a new coach, make Ben develop a jumper. If he doesn't do it, maybe your future is elsewhere.
I don't need the jumper, per se. Like, maybe, 10 to 15 feet. But, like...
No, I don't need a 3, but an elbow.
Score a post game. Like, get up a situation that you can go to the block when we're in the half court and Jimmy Butler can run the offense up top. And you can just play on the block and beat up whoever is guarding you.
Sure.
Because there's always going to be one guy smaller than the rest of you if you have a 6'10" point guard.
Maybe learn a backdoor cut.
Like, yeah, you're such a good passer. You can operate from the block. Learn how, like, LeBron became so much better when he got a post game and went to Miami and started passing out of the block.
Ooh, when he figured out that turnaround jumper, too.
He had that summer working with Hakeem. He worked with Hakeem for a whole summer. Like, Ben Simmons might go work with Magic. Maybe he'll figure out how to work it. Like, I don't know.
He might also, like, it might be at a point, and I don't know what their relationship's like, if they even have any interest in doing this, but go work with Giannis. Like, maybe
Giannis doesn't work with other people.
I know, that's true. But it's like, if that were an opportunity, they have the same body type almost. Ben Simmons is a little smaller. They could be the same player. Like, that's the thing Ben Simmons has to understand. You could be Giannis.
I mean, I would go as far as to say Ben Simmons can be better than Giannis.
Dude, I agree with you.
I think that Giannis is an exceptionally gifted player. Or I shouldn't say that. An exceptionally gifted athlete and an unbelievable motor. Like, it's not just the athleticism. The dude just keeps going. Like, you can punch him and hit him, and they beat him up today. He's coming back in game 2. Like, he's not going anywhere. But I just think Ben Simmons, from a basketball IQ standpoint and from the way he's able to make the people around him better, he's way past Giannis.
I think
way past him.
I've believed for a while that he has potential to be the best player on the planet.
Absolutely.
And he will never hit that potential if he continues to have this line in every single game he has played. 0 for 0 from 3.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
7 for 8 from the floor.
You want to play point guard?
Yeah.
You can't go 0 for 0 from 3. No. You can go 0 for 3.
You got to take them. You got to take them.
You can't, like, people sag so much.
You saw Jimmy Butler was doing that at the end of the Brooklyn series when they were killing him. It was garbage time. You saw him on the bench looking at Simmons, like, every time down, shoot a 3.
Yeah.
Shoot a 3. Shoot a 3.
And that's the other thing is, like, Ben Simmons, 3 assists.
Yeah.
We need more assists. And a big part of that, I think, is the fact that they can sag so far disrupts passing lanes now.
I mean,
and you're sitting in his passing lane.
I want to give a lot of credit to Toronto's defense, though, because Toronto's defense is insane.
Incredible.
Like, absolutely insane.
The other thing is, for this series, if Philly has a shot, and if there's one thing Philly can look at, they got 45 out of Kawhi and 29 out of Pascal Siakam, and they still only scored 108 points.
Yeah, but I just feel like Toronto knew what was going, and they just let him cook. Like, Lowry had 9, Gasol had 8, Green had 7. Gasol and Green combined to take 13 shots.
Yeah.
Like, they just let those guys cook when they're going like that.
And they were feeding.
And they were up early.
That was the huge thing. When they went on that stretch where they hit 12 straight shots in the first quarter. And I was like, Well, I don't know how.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Lowry even he ended up 4 for 10, but 9 and 8, and he played well. Like if you watch the game, Kyle Lowry was in control. He was fine. He played great on defense.
One of the things I saw going into this series too was Toronto and Milwaukee have by far been the best teams in the Eastern Conference. I saw that out of Toronto. Yeah, Toronto. I can't say I saw it out of Milwaukee at all. No. I saw it out of Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to talk more about Toronto. I'm very confident in that pick. Like,
this is the one second round series that I'm comfortable looking at and saying it's over. Like, and I think Philly might win 2 games, but the series is over.
It might go 6, but yeah, Toronto's going to win this series.
And I made a tweet about it where I was like, Philly might lose this in 4 because I don't, and it's not just like they played bad game 1. They didn't really play that bad. It's just a nightmare matchup. You can't
get anything.
Like, it's just a nightmare matchup.
Like, Toronto is so good on defense. You can't get anything. They don't get worse when they bring in subs. Like, they stay just as good on defense. They just play hard as hell, too.
Yeah, and
Kawhi does all of that in New Balances.
Did you see the shoes with the Times New Roman font on the back?
Yeah. Oh dude. I mean, like giving you 45 on 16 for 23 and some New Balances. 45 on 23 shots in some New Balances.
I can't explain to you how badly I want to hate Kawhi Leonard.
What can you hate about the guy? He doesn't say anything.
There's nothing to hate. Yeah. But it's like, dude, you wear New Balances with your name and fucking Times New Roman on the back of them.
It's awesome though. Like even like he showed no emotion, just scoring 45. It was just like an assassin. He's just like, yep, I'm going to kill you and walk away and go have dinner with my family. It
was an execution.
He was amazing.
The other game that was an execution, I cannot believe that ABC was allowed to broadcast a murder in the middle of the day on a Sunday.
It's okay if you put Hubie Brown there.
Yeah, because he enjoys the gladiator combat. First of all, before we do this, I cannot wait for Portland and Denver to start tomorrow because that is going to be one hell of a series. Mm-hmm. This series also should be one hell of a series, but I just don't know if it will be because holy shit are the playoff Celtics here.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's a series. I still think when you have a team that won 60 games, like you can't count them out because it was if they had beaten them by 15 or 16 and the Bucks kind of played okay, then they'd be really worried. But when you get shellacked and you lose by 20 plus,
you come back.
You can be like, we didn't have it. We were shit. We'll be better. You know, they made all their shots. We missed all our shots. You can find excuses. Even if there's no merit to the excuses, you can find excuses and brush it off in your head and be like, we'll be back. And if they win game 2, I think the series is still on. Like, they say the series doesn't start till the road team wins a game, right? So, okay, we got a series.
True.
Like, we got a series.
My thing with this series is, with 3 games in Boston, can Toronto win 4 out of 6? Or can Milwaukee win 4 out of 6 with 3 games in Boston? That's where I struggle.
I don't know.
That's the thing where these Celtics are different to me because regular season Celtics aren't winning on the road.
No, but like I mean, Horford didn't do that to Giannis in Game 1 of last year, but he did play him really, really well in Game 1 of last year.
I haven't seen anyone do what Horford did to Giannis.
What Horford did to Giannis today, like
I've never seen anyone play Giannis like that in my life.
Like it made me think like he wasn't as good. It literally made me question his athleticism. Like the things I've seen, there were a couple plays. Like he had a blow by on Aaron Baines where he was 2 feet behind the arc and he took 2 steps and dunked.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay. He can still do stuff, but like
when Horford went up and blocked his attempt at the rim, and then Giannis got the rebound, went up again, and Horford blocked him worse.
Stuffed him. That wasn't just a block. Like the ball never left his hands. He stuffed him.
The first block was a block.
There's a block when the ball leaves your hands and you block the shot, and then there's a dude trying to stuff it with 2 hands, and you go up and meet him at the summit, and that ball never leaves his hands, but that ball also never goes to the rim.
There was a great picture of it too, and it's the background.
Could have been a jump ball.
It's the background on my phone. I'll just show you.
Yeah, it's a great one. That's a pretty good one.
That is the description of meet me at the rim.
That's a jump ball.
That literally is a jump ball.
2 guys with their palms on the ball.
That is, I've never seen Giannis get worked the way that he got worked today.
He got beat up.
The other thing to me, playoff Bledsoe showed up.
He reared his ugly head.
It was very ugly. He didn't do anything.
What was up with the red shoes? The second I saw the red shoes today on him and Middleton, I was like, something's going on. I don't like it.
The thing that scared me with him, too, it wasn't the shots he was taking. It was the shots he wasn't taking. And what I mean by that is...
he only took 5.
Right. Yeah. But there was a point where he had the ball at the free throw line. He was wide open, uncontested. and he didn't pull the trigger. He looked scared. He was looking for someone else. He's like, I don't want to take this shot. I think Bledsoe's in his own head. Like, I almost think Terry Rozier has gotten to him without even needing to say anything.
There was a point where I just kept looking at the Bucks and be like, why won't anybody just put the damn head down and go to the basket? Like, the shots aren't falling. Go to the basket. Like, go to the basket. And nobody would, except for Giannis, who every time he went to the basket would, like, seemingly travel, or I guess they're just calling them Euro steps.
Right.
But when he gets bumped, they just let it go, and it's not a travel, apparently. And he went 7 for 21. Like, nobody else went to the basket with any type of ferocity. Brook Lopez and Eric Bledsoe both only took 5 shots.
And Brook Lopez, Lord help him.
That air ball was gross.
He had a team high +2. I put 0 stock into it because
he had 3 points.
He got thoroughly outplayed by Al Horford.
Yeah.
He was stuffed defensively. He couldn't do anything.
The Bucks couldn't find a lineup. Like, the Bucks were looking for a lineup that would give them anything, and they could not find a lineup.
It was something I worried about with them that I didn't talk about enough before this series started. They miss Malcolm Brogdon way more.
They miss him a lot.
Way more than the Celtics miss Marcus Smart.
I said when the Bucks went on that little run and like tied it or got down 2 at the half, this is the first thing that says, like, they just needed somebody to straight line drive. They needed somebody to pump fake and straight line drive and go to the hoop. And George Hill came in at the end and did that for them at the end of the first half. And then they got away from it again.
Yeah.
And they had Brogdon will do that for them. He is the best at doing that for them outside of Giannis on their team.
It was a couple things that made me really confident, too, with the way the Celtics played. One, Gordon Hayward played really well.
Did.
2, Terry Rozier took good shots and didn't take bad shots.
Terry Rozier plays a decent 2-guard.
He really does.
Plays a really decent 2-guard.
Especially when he's not taking bad shots.
Right.
Marcus Morris took only 6 shots, and they were all good shots.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't take any bad shots, except maybe Tatum. So Tatum's the only one taking even, like, maybe bad shots, but he was just trying to find it.
Right. And like you said, I mean, he didn't have it early, knew he didn't have it early, and didn't try to force it.
Which is good. What's also good is Kyrie shooting 12 of 21, putting up 26 points, having 11 assists.
Were all 11 of his assists on the pick and pop? I mean,
they might
just
have been.
worked them in the pick and pop.
And again, that's something I wanted to highlight more than I did too. This is one of Mike Budenholzer, excuse me, one of his like worst habits, I would say. He loves to sag his bigs.
Yeah.
And the Al Horford Kyrie pick and pop is going to kill him if he does that the rest of this series.
I mean, I can't remember when this was. It was at some point this year that I was watching a Celtics game, and I saw one of those pick and pops, and I just immediately I was like, whoa, that was Parker Duncan. Like, the way that Kyrie operates out of that pick and pop is like, I think he stole it straight from Tony Parker.
The thing is, too, it's like it's Parker Duncan, but it's with a way better offensive weapon than Tony Parker.
As a point guard, yeah, for sure. You're giving it to Al Horford, not Tim Duncan. No disrespect to Al Horford.
Certainly,
but
Al Horford. Tim Duncan's probably my favorite power forward of all time.
Tim Duncan.
I love Al Horford, but
Kyrie, like the threat of Kyrie blowing right by you, or just floating it up from 16 feet.
Seriously.
Which Tony Parker did too, but not as well as Kyrie. Like, that's why that they were doing with Jaylen Brown. It wasn't just Horford. Like, the pick and pop was like anybody can get some.
The other thing is, I wrote in my series preview for this series is watch how Gordon Hayward attacks the Milwaukee Bigs. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what he did.
Snake in the pick and roll. Him and Jimmy Butler snake a pick and roll so damn well.
And Hayward was snaking it, and then he was coming up, and it was just floaters at the rim over Ilyasova, over Brook Lopez, over
Ilyasova
Mirotic.
might be a sneaky play for them to do in the second game if they want to switch that starting lineup up, especially if Sterling Brown didn't play the second half or whatever it was. However many minutes he didn't play. He had an ankle thing. So if he can't play, just slotting Mirotic or slotting Ilyasova in and moving everybody down, that'll be interesting. I said to you earlier, I want to see what that big lineup can do with Lopez and Giannis and Big X, whether it's Ilyasova or Mirotic. That offensively, that's their most intriguing lineup for me.
I'm interested in that lineup offensively as well. The problem for me is you're now down 1-0, and that might be your worst lineup defensively.
Yeah, and you can't really play around too much. You have to win games.
And that's, when you have, like, I really am interested. I would love to see a Giannis, Mirotic, Brook Lopez type lineup.
Well, like I said before, like they could not find a lineup.
But, like, Mirotic played well to his credit today, but it's still only 13 points in 20 minutes. Brook Lopez, both of these guys can be played off the floor by the Celtics.
And, I mean, we thought, like, I don't want to say, like, the X factor, but, like, the trick up the sleeve of Milwaukee was Giannis at the 5. They had to do it in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe we'll get that late in game 2.
The Celtics put Bud on his heels
in the first
so
quarter.
fast.
They had Giannis at the 5. I was like, wow, that was quick. Man.
God help me. I feel like the Celtics might win this thing in 4 or 5.
It could happen. I still the team won 60 games. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that okay, they weren't ready for that type of level of intensity. They got smacked in game 1. They'll be better in game 2. If they're not better in the first half of game 2, I'm with you. This one's over quick. But I still think they can get there.
I'm at a point. All right, I think I might maybe be looking at this through rose-colored glasses, trying to be too optimistic about this team. It might be like Kyrie Irving's basketball education that's feeding me into this thought that he went 4 years with LeBron James in Cleveland, and he went 4 years of being on a team that knew it was going to the NBA Finals, no matter what happened in the regular season. He went 4 years of just autopilot, and then you get
3 years.
Sure, 3 years.
Yeah.
Excuse me. He went 3 years of autopilot, and then the calendar flips to April, and let's go.
Turn it on. Here we go.
Kind of looks like what the Celtics did this year.
Yeah, I
they
can't
knew
argue with that.
At the point that they were like, we're not getting the one, they just they didn't really go full test kitchen, but it was like, we know we're going to lose a lot of games, so we're not going to fuck with the starting lineup too much. Maybe Marcus Morris and Terry Rozier will be able to find it. We'll let them play. We're not going to do the whole human cost of changing things and trying to get into the 3 or the 2 or anything like that. And now they've gotten to April. They have this Al Horford, Kyrie Irving pick and pop that you were just saying.
Deadly.
They've pulled out more than they ever had in the regular season.
Yeah. I mean, they ran it 30 times per 100 possessions in the first round. They were closer to 40. Like I said before, they're set up to take the kind of shots that Milwaukee concedes. You said that too. The Celtics don't get to the free throw line, 24-8 in free throws for Milwaukee today. But they were dead last in free throw rate and 27th in the share of shots that came at the basket. They don't go to the basket and try to get fouled. It's not their game. They're a jump shooting team. So most teams would lose that against Milwaukee. They take away the rim. Boston's already playing how Milwaukee wants them to play, but that's an advantage for Boston. They don't need to go to the rim. That's
the problem for Milwaukee, and that's part of why I'm at a point where I'm almost comfortable in saying I think this series is going to be over quickly in favor of Boston. Is Boston is playing into what Bud wants them to do. The problem is what Bud wants them to do is exactly what the Celtics want to do. And it's this is where I thought it was a little ridiculous at the time when people were like, the Celtics it's a better matchup if they get Milwaukee than Toronto. It's a better matchup that they got Milwaukee. I don't know that Milwaukee has any way to defend this team.
I mentioned Zach Lowe's preview before. He said the one overreaching question of this series is Budenholzer willing to scrap the foundation that got Milwaukee that far and play an entirely different style when the situation and the time calls for it. I don't know that they can do it, let alone if he's willing to.
And he might be. It's like the perfect argument when they bring up Tom Izzo and turning to zone. Mm-hmm. You haven't done it all year. You can't just suddenly do it.
And it's like, can Bud scrap it and put Giannis at the 5 and figure out how to make it work? I don't think they're going to be able to figure out how to make it work. I don't think they're done.
Can he try doing that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can he do it well enough to win 4 out of the next 6 games with 3 of them in Boston?
Would he have a better shot if he had his secondary ball handler like Brogdon? Maybe.
Absolutely.
But they don't.
But now, that's the other thing. I always said this series was a race. Who can get their guy back quicker? The Celtics to get Smart back or the Bucks to get Brogdon back? After today, it's extremely clear the Bucks need Brogdon way worse than the Celtics need Smart. And now I'm at a point where, the Celtics took the first game. They punched Milwaukee in the mouth. I don't even know that it needs to be a race for who can get back first. I think it's just, I don't know how Milwaukee wins 4 of the next 6 games.
It's tough. It's really tough. Winning 4 out of 6 against Boston when you have to go to the Garden 3 times is a tall order for even the Warriors.
Right. I can't look at this series the same way I can look at the Rockets Warriors and go, how can the Rockets win 4 out of the next 6? It's easy. They steal game 2.
Yeah. And which they did last year.
Yeah. I look at Celtics.
And they stole game 2 last year. Remember, Golden State blitzed them in the third quarter. We're up 1 million going in the fourth, and they stole it. They can do that.
I look at Celtics Bucks. I'm like, how can the Bucks win 4 of the next 6?
Just win 1. Just focus on trying to win 1 because it didn't look like you could today.
Again, what Horford did to Giannis, we cannot stress enough. I have never.
It made me look at Giannis different. It made me immediately realize, okay, this is why Harden's the MVP for me. This type of stuff is why Harden should have won MVP.
That was some of the best big defense I've ever seen.
It was outstanding. Al Horford played outstanding today.
Really, and like I texted you early in the game, and I said, just as a team, this might be some of the best defense I've ever seen
Before
played.
they gave up that run at the end of the first half, they were playing outstanding.
Right, and I wanted to bring that up too, just quickly, because that's another reason why I'm really inspired by this team. Regular season Celtics, if they gave up a 15-0 run to blow a 15-point lead and then give up the lead going into halftime,
that halftime locker room would have looked real weird.
Ooh, it would have looked awkward, and they would have lost that game by 20. They came out in the second half and just kicked Milwaukee in the fucking teeth.
And I'll say this, like 24 minutes of Pat Connaughton is too many minutes of Pat Connaughton, because it means, especially if Kyrie's on the court at the same time, like you're just giving him a free pass to hang out on defense.
Yep. And it's going to make life easy for Kyrie offensively.
You've got to force Kyrie to guard.
If Kyrie's going to score 25 points probably every game in this series.
No doubt.
If he's doing that,
he does that.
If he's doing that and also getting 11 assists, you're fucked.
Yeah, and you're not making him expend any energy for those 24 minutes that Connaughton's out there. And like, there's a decent chance if Brown can't go, they're just going to slot Connaughton in and he's going to start. And that's a nightmare.
Yep. It's really, the Malcolm Brogdon injury is what might just kill him.
Like, yeah, I mean, you're depending on Sterling Brown. Like, Tony Snell, who are you putting in there? Is DiVincenzo, can he even play? I don't, like...
And... Again, like I've said kind of all year, I thought the best Eastern Conference Finals from an on-court perspective would be Boston and Toronto. I think these are the two best teams in the Eastern Conference. Mm-hmm. Throw the seeding out.
Sure.
I think Boston and Toronto are the two best basketball teams in the Eastern Conference. I think it would be the most exciting on-court series the Eastern Conference could offer us. Maybe the NBA could offer us.
The Western Conference Finals, I think, is going to be underrated. Like, I think whoever it is, Portland... I'm picking Portland to come out of this next series, and I think Portland's going to give somebody a fight.
Can you imagine if Portland takes Golden State 7 games?
I could see it. Like, it would have to be Golden State playing down to their level, but I could see it. Like, Dame is that type of player that he can get hot, and CJ is the #1 hard shot maker in the NBA.
Yep.
Like, he just...
Those turnaround mid-range, too.
I mean,
like,
there's low percentage unless CJ McCollum's shooting.
Or DeRozan.
Yeah, or DeRozan. Some to
DeMar
Kyrie
DeRozan
today.
or CJ McCollum.
Like, yeah.
Dude, Kyrie couldn't miss
those
with those
turnaround moon balls. Oh.
George Hill, I'm sorry. Like, this man has a family.
I mean, he did all he could do. George Hill, great defense. There was no hand down, man down. It was hand down, doesn't matter. Hand up, no. What did Mark Jackson? Hand up, so what?
Yep,
that's what it is. Hand down, man down. Hand up, so what?
The other interesting thing from this game was Jaylen Brown put Giannis on one of the most incredible posters I've ever seen.
That was an awesome.
He stared him down from the rim while
forget Jaylen Brown's
throwing
a third
him
overall
through
pick.
And a freak athlete.
Yeah, he gets Kawhi comparisons last year for a reason.
He doesn't get to show. He got LeBron comparisons at points. It was a little excessive, but
like
it's
the Kawhi one has merit though.
When you see the athletic feats that this guy can pull off, sometimes it's like he should, and maybe he never will. Maybe he'll be a victim of playing on this team, but he should be a superstar.
I think that's the thing that goes underrated about Kawhi Leonard is he's like an elite scorer. Like, if Brown ever got to that level, then it'd be something. Like, Kawhi is amazing in all facets, but, like, he had 45 on 23 shots the other night. He's an elite-level scorer.
So, the last thing I want to do before we get out of here, because we have a little more battery on this than I thought we would have.
Nice.
If it's between Boston and Toronto, who has a better shot at Golden State? If anyone other than Golden State comes out, I think the Eastern Conference wins the title.
Yeah, I'd say that, too. Even Houston. Boston can switch everything on the wing, but Toronto can too. Toss up.
Toronto's slightly less switchable. This is where
slightly less switchable, but Siakam's way better guarding Durant than anybody Boston has.
Yeah, fair. Tatum defensively today was very good.
He's good, but Siakam is a dog. If they get Smart back though, he can guard Steph. It's.
They get Smart back. Smart might be able to guard Durant.
I think that ends up the same way Beverly. Like, he's a dog as hell, but you're just not 7 feet tall. Like,
Eric Bledsoe got away with only having 1 turnover.
Yeah, Eric Bledsoe was. They called his name 3 times in this game. Like, he was nothing in this game. But to answer that question, complete toss up because they're both unbelievable. They both have a player who can get anything they want against Golden State and Kyrie or Kawhi. I think Toronto. Oh, man, I don't know if Siakam's better than Horford, but I don't know if Horford's better than Siakam. Like,
I think Horford's better than Siakam.
I don't know.
I've taken the point of like Siakam might be the best player on the Raptors at times this year, and he has been at times this year. Like definitely most improved player.
Like Al Horford played really great, but so did Pascal Siakam. He had 29 and 7 on 12 for 15.
Nobody is doing to Giannis.
No,
what
I know,
Horford did to Giannis.
I know that. Defensively, I know that. But Siakam is a very good defender too.
Like the fact that Horford clamped Giannis and also scored 20 on 8 of 16 with 11 rebounds.
Right, but Kevin Durant is not going to try to bang Al Horford in the paint the way Giannis did. Like Siakam's more equipped to cover Durant than Horford.
They wouldn't run that matchup either.
Right.
Maybe it's an interesting thing because maybe you go against Golden State and all of a sudden Gordon Hayward gets back in the starting lineup and you just have Gordon Hayward defend Durant.
You go with no Boogie and they're going to start the Hamptons 5, then you counter with Newport 5.
You put Tatum on Iguodala. You put Hayward on Durant.
If they start the Hamptons 5 and the Celtics are there, you have to counter with the Newport 5.
Erotic City.
Blake Griffin had knee surgery this week. That's where my fandom's at.
I called the Celtics to the finals basically out of complete blind fandom.
Yeah.
And here we are. It might have been the smartest pick I made all year.
Like I've said all this whole hour long, I'm very confident in the Toronto pick. I think Toronto's coming out of the East. I really, really like what they're doing. But Boston is a threat, no doubt about it.
Either one of those
easily
two
come out. Easily.
After today, I don't know that Milwaukee could go toe-to-toe with Golden State. I was always questionable because I didn't know about their matchups.
They did walk into Oakland and smack them this year.
Yeah, but I've always questioned their matchups in like a 7-game series.
They don't have someone to bang with Giannis like Horford.
True. That's very true.
They don't have that guy. Like, you can put Bogut down there?
Dude, I'm telling you, you give me those 3 Eastern Conference teams against the Warriors and bet in the field.
Yeah, Milwaukee could beat Golden State.
I'm betting the field.
I just don't know if they can beat Boston. Either way.
That's a weird thing to say. They could definitely beat the Warriors.
It's matchups, man.
Not sure they can beat the Celtics.
I mean, look at what happened with Houston today. Like, if you just don't have the right matchup and Clint Capella scores 4 points and PJ Tucker doesn't score, and all of a sudden it looks like a team that could have beat you can't beat you.
All right, that's our show. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Happy Monday.
Love you guys. Oh, wait, that's PFT.
Yeah, it's a PFT.
Fuck, can't do that. See you next week. Yeah, hate you.